Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Tuesday, May the 13th, which makes this the news for Monday, May 12th, day 1174 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital currently under siege. Why are the likes looking like that today? They look funny. They're all little things. Hey, Integral, how you doing? Hey, Sharon. Hey, Lars. The hearts have smiley faces and little arms, and there's stars and stuff. It's amazing. It's interesting. Hey, G2. Hey, Bobby. Hey, Laddie. Hey, Richard Prexis. It's an upgrade, Di. It's an upgrade. Hey, Tisno. Croatia's in the house. Good to see you, pal. Denmark is here. I know the UK is here. Who else is here? Wales is here. Hey, Steve-O. Hey, number one. Ireland appears to be here. I assume that's the Irish flag, right? Did I get it wrong? Hey, Debbie. Florida is here. Ms. Fuller, how do you do? Hey, Dusty in Nashville. How you living, brother? Bavaria. Hey, Pingu. Hey, Pingu, do you know somebody just told me that Taurus is on their way? I had not heard any announcement. Oh, Mad Mike, I didn't know you were in Pittsburgh. I used to live in Erie for a while there. London is here. Hey, Cake Boy and Banjo, one of the best names on the Tickety Talk. Hey, Michael. Hey, Michael Boucher. Phoenix is here. I do love that Phoenix desert, boy. Michael, did I ever tell you I worked out of an office in Scottsdale for about 6 years? I worked out of an office in Dallas for 6 years too, actually, Michael, curiously enough. Yeah, I used to like going to Scottsdale. Philly here. My father's whole family is in Philadelphia, so I avoid it like the plague. I never go there. Hey, Chris Carter. MERS will not speak in public about Taurus, but I think we will deliver it. Somebody just told me Taurus is on their way. I haven't heard an announcement or seen anything to that effect, though the Germans do tend to play it close to the chest. It could well be that we won't know that Taurus is on the way until they are in country. Bobby. Hey, Mel. So, guys, as I understand it, there are Shaheds on their way already. We haven't had an air alert here in Kyiv, but it's my understanding that Shaheds have been launched. Now, if that is true, it is midnight here. And that means that Russia is not buying into the 30-day ceasefire nonsense. And, of course, they have told us as much. We saw, on Saturday, boy, everybody was full of hope, weren't we? The Ukrainians had shown great restraint and had not hit the Victory Day parade, which they could have easily done. But Trump called Zelensky, and I'm sure encouraged him not to do that. The presence of Xi Jinping and Xi Jinping's personal request to not strike the parade. Ukraine did the smart political thing and did not attack the parade. In fact, did not send drones into Russia, attack drones, reconnaissance drones on Thursday. But no attack drones on Friday or Saturday were sent in. Ukraine played it right. Saturday, we were full of hope. The world seemed united. Donald Trump was screaming, demanding a 30-day ceasefire. Starmer, Macron, and Merz, on his first trip outside of Germany since becoming chancellor, were here in Kyiv and announced that their full-throated support for Donald Trump's plan of an immediate 30-day ceasefire, or Russia would be hit with sanctions. And the crux of all of this is that reasonable people want Russia to stop their aggression in Ukraine before negotiations happen, right? It seems like a very reasonable request. If you're serious about peace, let's start with a ceasefire, then we can talk about your demands. Well, wouldn't you know it? Donald Trump pulled the rug out from everybody on Sunday. Right out from under everybody. Putin doesn't want a ceasefire. Putin wants to negotiate. I suggest Ukraine meet in Turkey and agree to negotiate immediately, all caps, because he's a fucking child. So Trump sabotaged everything on Sunday. European leaders were reeling from this betrayal, which is like the 72nd time he's done it to them. They shouldn't be surprised. So instead, the Europeans are saying, if there is not a ceasefire by the end of the day on the 12th, which for us just happened 9 minutes ago here, that there would be consequences, that there would be bone-crushing sanctions against Russia and more weapons to Ukraine. Now, in terms of more weapons, the Europeans did come up with €1 billion on Saturday and announced 1.9 billion euros, over $2 billion. It's a good aid package. $1 billion of it will be used following the Danish model. That's where the money goes directly to Ukrainian defense contractors who are making weapons for Ukraine, and the weapons go right from the defense contractors to the front line. No NATO logistics to jump through, no transportation costs and time, just boom. You're pouring €1 billion into the Ukrainian economy, which it so desperately needs, and the Ukrainians are making their own weapons domestically, which means that they come with no restrictions from the West. None of these insane restrictions about hitting Russian targets inside Russia. All of these things that benefit the aggressor. All of that goes away when the weapons are made in Ukraine. So all of that is good news, right? Now, as far as Putin goes, there's no way he's going to Turkiye. If there is no ceasefire, why should Zelensky go? Zelensky raised the bar. He called the bluff. He said very specifically, I will go to Turkey on Thursday. I expect to see Vladimir Putin there. Well, Vlad never said he would go, only that there would be direct negotiations with Kyiv. So it remains to be seen. Yeah, but Scotty, all of that happened before Putin's 3-day ceasefire. During the ceasefire, the 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Ukraine sent no attack drones into Russia. Now, I expect that at midnight tonight, when there's no ceasefire, that we will see some kind of a Ukrainian attack against Russia overnight tonight. I would expect that. Oh man, my eyebrows are really out of control tonight. Sorry. Okay, so last night, again, there's no ceasefire here. Over the 3-day so-called ceasefire, the Russians lost 3,920 men off the battlefield, KIA or WIA. Trump did post, it's a good point, Martin, I meant to mention it. Trump did post that he might go to Turkiye to join Putin and Zelensky for these talks. Zelensky welcomed Trump's involvement because he has to. He has no choice. America's got the juice, baby. We got all the weapons, we got all the money, we got everything that Ukraine needs to win this thing. If we could only have the courage of our convictions rather than selling the country out to what is clearly, to me, a KGB asset in the person of Donald Trump. No, Russia's blocking YouTube. Russia's blocking YouTube. They're blocking Instagram. They're blocking TikTok. Works as I understand it, but you can't get any videos made in the last year. The videos are all a year old or older. So all the major social media platforms are blocked inside Russia. There is no freedom of speech in Russia. There is no freedom of press in Russia. It is a police state that is as repressive as any period in the Soviet regime was. More interested in persecuting, prosecuting, and punishing its own citizens than on developing its economy or culture. No, Dai. Well, yes, I do. So Dai says, do you think Trump is playing the long game? He is. The long game is the ruination of America. That's his game. The devaluation of the dollar. The neutering of American power in the world. He wants to he's following the exact playbook of the Russian oligarchs after the USSR. Devalue the currency, raise interest rates, engage in trade wars, saddle your people with debt, so that you can sell off the assets of your government to your billionaire friends and concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. He is setting America up for the greatest fire sale in history. And the buyers will be the billionaires from enemy states, the Russians, the Saudis, the Chinese. Absolutely, the greatest fire sale in history is what he's setting things up for. And then him and his buddies will be the only people with money, and they will finally be able to do what they've always wanted to do. Have unlimited power and the ability to buy and sell human beings without regard for their dignity. He doesn't have to be bright. It's the Russian playbook. He just has to follow the instructions. And remember, the instructions make sense to him because he is a zero-sum player. He is a zero-sum player. He believes that for him to win, you must lose. That is, don't have so much, you have more faith in my fellow Americans, Dai, than I do. With 28% of the American population screaming into their TikToks that gas is $1.98 a gallon, while ignoring the fact that it's $3.24 a gallon every time they fill up, says to me that there is so much denial of reality in this MAGA cult that reason, logic, and facts no longer play any part in the decisions that the maggots and their enablers make. He has not become more pro-Ukrainian, Pingo. Just the fact that he pulled the rug out from under his European allies on Sunday should tell you that he is still in Putin's corner. He is backing Putin on the ceasefire. It's just that simple. Hey, Samso, how you doing, buddy? So last night we saw the Russians send another 108, second day in a row, 108 drones. Weird number. Anyway, the Russians sent 108 drones. 85 of them were shot down or taken out with electronic countermeasures, which is a 79% interception rate, something like that, almost 80%. Europe does, Mel, yes, Europe has to wake up to the fact that they have to go it alone. Right now, America is compromised, and we don't have any idea when it's going to fix itself, if it ever will. Trump is getting ready to engage in foreign imperialistic wars against our closest ally, Canada, and Greenland. And for those of you who are saying, no, he would never do that, it's all bluster and nonsense, no, it's his plan. He wants to see it. So we shall see what happens. Now, the EU members that were here in Kyiv over the weekend not only proposed 1.9 billion or pledged 1.9 billion euros in support for Ukraine, they also discussed the establishment of a tribunal to punish Russians guilty of war crimes. Now, how this tribunal will work, will they start trying people in absentia? Or will they start trying Ukrainian POWs who are known to have committed war crimes? I don't know. We have to wait to see what that tribunal is going to look like. We saw some great video. Now, for anybody who follows this channel, Di, that's a tough question to answer. Di's asking, are there more Russian troops on the border? So we see these reports from NATO that new units are being moved to the Finnish and Baltic borders. But it's unclear who those people are. And frankly, Red Robin, Russia doesn't have the troops. If Russia were to try to open a front against a NATO member or a European state, I think it would be the end of Russia fast, really fast. Now, we know he's trying to bring Hungary into the war, right? Ukrainian military intelligence folks just cracked a Hungarian military intelligence operation contrary to Ukrainian best interests inside of Ukraine. These Hungarian military personnel were here assessing air defense vulnerabilities and assessing the willingness of Ukrainians to accept Hungarian troops as an occupying force on their soil. So it looks like Putin is trying to divvy up Ukraine between any sycophant ass-kisser that will go along with it. So likely he's made the same offers to Fico in Slovakia. Clearly the minerals deal is the tip of the iceberg for U.S. economic neo-colonial coercion against Ukraine. Bulgarian spies are regularly arrested in the UK. Well, Russian spies, I think it was Russian spies that were posing as Bulgarians. I think originally they were Russian, but they got Bulgarian citizenship, moved to the UK like 10 years ago. They were deep undercover in the UK for like 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, or if we're not talking about two different events, Michael. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. Hey, everybody, there's Little Red Sunflower, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Please thank Little Red for us. And Little Red is the last sponsor I have this week. So if anybody wants to sponsor a live, if anybody can help me out and sponsor a live, the money does, like the economic impacts of Trump seem to be hitting already. The money to keep me here is drying up. I'm losing Patreon supporters, and I am not getting live sponsorships the way I did. So, guys, if anybody can join the Patreon, toss me $5 a month. Help keep me in Ukraine. It would be appreciated. If anybody can sponsor a live this week, PayPal's in the description, and not the usual suspects, please. I appreciate you guys more than you will ever know. But I never want to be in a position where I'm dependent on one or two or three people who then have control over this channel, right? If only one person is sponsoring the channel, if they're thank you, Little Red. I really appreciate that. But if only one person is sponsoring the channel, if that person wants me to say something, then I have to seriously ask myself, do I want to say it or do I want to leave Ukraine? And I do not want to leave Ukraine. I find this work very satisfying, and I would like to continue to do it. And I appreciate everybody who makes it possible. The board of directors doesn't approve this message. So the board of directors, for those of you who do not know, are the biggest sponsors I have. Fitz, Ballerina, Arne, Chris Carter, Blue Ariel Silk, the people who really, and a few other people who I apologize. But, you know, Fitz, I appreciate it, man. But this has to be a channel with a broad base of support so that there is never any question as to my independence. I don't get any money from the CIA. I wish I did. I'd love to be on that CIA dental program, boy. And Mel, there's never any reason to apologize if you are not a person who can help. Never any reason. If you only have $5 to give it to the Ukrainians. I'm talking to the people for whom, you know, these kinds of donations do not affect their ability to buy Starbucks. Exactly, Integral. Exactly. I didn't say that war is satisfying. I did not say any such thing. I said that my work here, reporting on the war, surfacing the truth, the fact-based reality of this war for people who don't get the truth in their media is satisfying to me. And I hope to God that it's doing some good. I hope to God that it has changed some minds. Okay. Thank you. Hey, Dan Ballard. Dan Ballard is a longtime sponsor of the channel, supporter of the channel, has gone way out of his way for me on numerous occasions, and is one of many people who makes my life here in Ukraine possible. But I think that it is important that it's many people. If it's just a few people, then I failed. Then I have failed. Okay, anyway, enough about me. Back to the war. The Ukrainian Unmanned Drone Services Group, which is a new department of the military here, right? They released video footage of training exercises with unmanned sea drones used as launch platforms for long-range FPV drones. Now, guys, this is amazing. It's amazing stuff. And you saw the video if you subscribe to the Patreon. And you can get a free account, Mel, right? If you don't have a free Patreon account, get one. Because every morning I do the news we are waking up to over there. And that's the only place it gets published each morning. And in there, I included the video of the drone training exercises. So you see these Maguras come out, and then little hatches open, and a little aerial drone comes up, and it goes off. And what you don't see is that built into the Magura drone is a communications station that acts as a repeater so that the signal to the FPV drone gets relayed to the drone operators hundreds of miles away, making it possible for these sea drones to sneak up to the shore of Crimea and not just blow jets out of the air, right, with their Sidewinder missile capabilities, but also launch FPV drones that can then go inland looking for targets, looking for radars, looking for tanks and other weapons. Amazing. Thank you, Gary. Gary just subscribed here on the TikTok. And, you know, Gary, I'll tell you, I've made a bunch of subscriber-only videos. Nobody watches them. They literally get no views. So as a subscriber, you should feel free to contact me directly anytime you want. And I will respond to your messages, definitely. Could FPV be launched from the Ukrainian oil platforms in the Black Sea? No. Not as far as I know, Mel. You can launch drones from there. The Ukrainians have done it, but not FPV drones. And the reason that they can't be FPV drones is because of the limitations on distance, right? You have to have a strong, uninterruptible signal to the FPV drone operator for FPV drones to work. And I think right now the max range that we know of is 40 kilometers. What is that, about 27 miles, something like that? And so the oil platforms, the rigs out in the Black Sea that Ukraine has control of, as I understand it, they are too far from shore for FPV drones to work, you know. Hey, Jacob Grady. Quilty? Did you mean guilty? I don't know what you're talking about, Sam, so must be a sidebar, huh? We saw this amazing picture from so a couple of things about the May Day, or about the Victory Day parade that I did not, thanks Omar, that I did not realize the day of the parade. One, up in the parapets of the Kremlin, they had SPG-9 anti-tank missiles. What? That is a great example of how in a fascist autocratic society, you do shit that is completely meaningless just because it looks good to the uninformed. It looks like you have a bunch of guns up on the parapet that will save you from drones. They will not do that. If they had to use those guns, half the parade would be shredded by shrapnel from the guns, as I understand it. So hysterical, right? Then the other thing that I didn't get about the parade, you know, those guys were sitting, they weren't out in the open. And normally the high command, the czar, are all out in the open where everybody can see him and everybody can wave. But no, they weren't this time. Because what the Russians did was they built a bomb shelter directly behind the bandstands. And then they built an anti-drone awning, a drone, what was supposed to be a drone-proof awning, over the dignitaries on the dais. So Putin and Xi and those guys were all under this drone protection with an entrance into an above-ground bunker right behind them. So clearly Putin was nervous about the Ukrainians hitting the parade. Of course he was, because it's what he would do. Oh, a bunch of Ukrainians and the intelligentsia and foreign dignitaries and everybody who I hate is out in the open in Kyiv. I will strike them. Right? That's his thinking. He thinks everybody is as pitiless and cruel as he is. And so we saw him hiding under that awning along with Xi Jinping for his 37-minute military parade. Man, I remember the first Soviet Victory Day parade I saw, summer of 1985 on VHS. 4.5 hours. The tanks took an hour to go by. It's unbelievable. 37 minutes. Let's see, what else is going on? Let me get the notes. Oh, that is not the only Victory Day parade shenanigans that I want to talk about. They made a papier-mâché Kremlin in Yamal, Russia, and they stuck it on the back of a truck, right? But they put the red star on top of the Kremlin, and it was just about 7 centimeters too tall. And it caught on a wire over the parade ground, and the thing fell off the truck. The Kremlin has fallen. It was beautiful, beautiful. I made a video about it. You can see the still from that video in there. What else? Oh my God. You know, I keep saying that this is not Russia's war.
Give me a minute, because
Whoops.
all of
I keep saying that this is not Russia, that this is not Putin's war, that it's Russia's war. And there's good reason for that. And we saw that writ large in the most brutal way this weekend. We saw a video posted to Russian Telegram channels cheering for the punishment of soldiers by being tied to trees and beaten with sticks. This is Russian discipline. It is not discipline. It is the sadistic abuse of people you think of as less than you. Systemic to the Russian mindset. A notorious war criminal who goes by the call sign of Kama, attached to the 144th Motorized Rifle Regiment of the Russian Federation, stripped naked 2 of his men who had broken some regulation. Stripped them naked, threw them in a pit, and told them to fight to the death, which they did as their fellow soldiers cheered and hooted and hollered and passed the vodka around. This is not normal. This is not a movie. This is the brutality, the reality of the brutality that is modern Russia today. And that brutality is systemic, not merely in the armed forces, but in the society itself. Russia is sick, and it needs healing. We saw some of Russia on fire. Now in Tula, this happened a week ago, but we only got video today. In Tula, the Ukrainians hit a plant that manufactures Pantsir air defense. We don't yet have a damage assessment on the plant, but in the video, a large fire on the territory of the plant is clearly raging. It seems unlikely that production will not be interrupted there for some time. We just don't know how long. Another oil rig blew up in the Siberian oil fields. This is the second one in 3 months. Very unusual, right, to have major catastrophes happening just 2 months apart. Very unusual to see that. So why is this happening? The Ukrainians don't strike oil fields, or at least they haven't really. There might have been 1 or 2 strikes on oil production facilities. What the Ukrainians do is hit military targets and refineries. I think a large part of that is because they don't want to upset the global oil market. They don't want to take Russia's supply of oil off the global market for fear that it will drive prices up. Well, in my opinion, those days can be over now. The Saudis have increased production in complicity with Donald Trump and the Russians in order to bankrupt the American shale oil industry. You could take the millions of barrels of oil that Russia puts on the market every day off the market and stabilize the price of oil, maybe preventing or minimizing the impacts of a global recession. Ukraine should start hitting oil export facilities, in my opinion, and pipelines as well. The world can do without those millions of barrels for the time being. Why that oil field went up in smoke, we don't know. Clearly, the Russians are not big on safety meetings. And with all of the Western expertise in managing these businesses, it seems likely that we're going to see more accidents like this happen. More oil wells go up, more gas wells go up. As I understand it, 3 gas wells are shooting flames 75 feet or about 25 meters into the air. It was an OSHA violation, Fitz. It was an OSHA violation. So not only are the Europeans sending €1 billion to Ukraine for them to build their own weapons, the Ukrainians are consistently innovating for themselves. And one of the latest innovations comes out of the border guards, hey, PH, you're welcome, who we don't talk about, right? Sometimes we talk about my buddy Pasha, who's in the border guards, and who we sent Christmas cookies to, right? But for the most part, we don't talk about the border guards. The border guards have created a new, cheap, highly mobile, highly effective, multi-launch rocket system by mounting a small MLRS to the back of an armored Humvee, right? Like you guys saw those videos where I was driving around in an armored Humvee here in Kyiv that my buddy raises money to make these things, right? Well, that platform is stable enough to put an MLRS rocket system on the back, and it doesn't have a recoil effect on the truck itself. So they're deploying a bunch of these to the front, and they are highly effective as shoot and scoot anti-air and rocket platforms. Beautiful. The UK is doing its part, of course, as always. The UK has been great in all this. And they have invented a new system, a new air defense system, very similar to what the border guards did, launching, in this case, the rocket is the, not the Hammer, the other one. ASRAAM, the ASRAAM. So you put an ASRAAM launching system on the back of a flatbed truck, and the trucks themselves are just repurposed British kit that was ready to be, sent to the scrapyard. They've repurposed them, added the multi-launch rocket system, sent them to Ukraine with a bunch of rockets. And now they've already, of the 8 that are here, they've already shot down over 300 drones. And dig this, there's 5 more on the way. They call it the Raven. And the Raven, along with the Gravehawk, demonstrate a really remarkable commitment of the British military to provide ongoing solutions for the Ukrainians. One good, haha, it's funny, T-Bar. You're funny. I almost said it out loud. That's what it stands for, Mel. Advanced Short Range Air-to-Air Missile, ASRAAM. The MLRS systems don't have to be cluster munitions, but the HIMARS, for example, which is a multi-launch rocket system, right? That's all MLRS means, is multi-launch rocket system. It's a system for bombarding the enemy with a bunch of rockets fired in a short period of time off the bed of like a truck that can easily move so that it can't be easily targeted by enemy artillery fire. The HIMARS certainly fire cluster ATACMS. So that's one example, but the HIMARS also fire unitary warhead ATACMS, as well as a bunch of other rockets. So so they are highly lethal, all of them, Bobby, but you use different ones depending on what the target is. You have a bunch of helicopters on a pad, you want cluster munitions. That'll tear holes through all of them, right? You have a bunker, you want a unitary warhead that's going to bunker bust that bunker. Turkiye is not a signatory to the ICC. So the Rome Statute, or the International Criminal Court, puts in place provisions for trying people like Milosevic, who was a war criminal out of Serbia. Serbia, right? I want to say Serbia. And they did. And he's rotting in a jail if he's still alive. Unfortunately, not all countries are signatories to the Rome Statute. The US is not. Russia is not. And Turkiye is not. So he can't be arrested if he were to go to Turkey. Not that Putin is going to go to Turkey. He's not going to Turkey. Give me a break. On the diplomatic front, I can say with certainty, there is no ceasefire from the Russian side in Ukraine, and it is highly unlikely that Putin will go to Turkey. The only reason Putin would go to Turkey is not to deal with Zelensky, but if Trump were going to be there, so that he could give his Washington puppet new marching orders in light of the changing circumstances of their plot to rule the world together. He might send one of the doubles, Russell. I did think that. But Zelensky has met Putin, the real Putin, in the past, when Zelensky was an entertainer and quite famously appeared on the Russian New Year's Eve program on more than one occasion, which is the biggest celebration of the Russian year. So if I'm not mistaken, he's met Putin multiple times. If they send a double, he will know, and he will expose it for what it is. I would think. Although maybe he'd have more leverage keeping it quiet. I don't know. Regardless, it wouldn't do the talks any good. Putin would have to go himself, or someone who can pass as him. Correct, Jax. The Kremlin is completely silent about the Turkiye thing. Okay, this is the kind of story we need right now. Boy, is it ever. 3 Ukrainians identified the positions of 3 Russians. The Russians were at an observation point inside Ukrainian territory. So these 3 Ukrainians, I believe they were from the Artan GUR group of special forces. Get a bead on the Russians and move in to capture them. That's their goal, to capture these 3 Russians. The Russians ambush them with chemical weapons. The guys have chemical weapons burns all over. They're having trouble breathing. Right, that's the situation. This makes something like 4,000 documented cases of war crimes involving chemical or biological weapons by the Russians in 3 years. Most of them in the last 18 months. Vast majority of them in just the last 18 months, as Russia is increasingly desperate. The 3 Ukrainians get ambushed with chemical weapons in violation of the Chemical Weapons Treaty, which Russia is a signatory to. The Ukrainian drone operators see what's happening. They get on board. They start dropping munitions on the Russians. One of the Ukrainians takes this opportunity to crawl away and hide in the woods, escaping his Russian captors. That leaves 2 Ukrainians with 3 Russians. Ukrainian drone operators are not done. They hunt down the 3 Russians and then begin leading the 3 Ukrainians back to a safe place where they can be treated for their chemical burns. A remarkable operation consisting of multiple moving parts and the highest level of execution and communication required to pull it off. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it is that kind of heroism, that kind of innovation, that kind of thinking on your feet that ensures Ukrainian success over Russia, in my opinion. So that's the kind of story we need right now. Am I right, folks? So, ladies and gentlemen, big thanks to Little Red Sunflower, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server. Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. And to Jay and Travis, the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. And we've got 10 minutes left for Q&A, so I will happily answer anybody's questions. If I can, though, just again, let me remind everybody, the only reason I can stay in Ukraine is because of the Patreon and the nightly sponsorships. And money is tight. It's drying up, in fact. I'm losing Patreon subscribers. I'm finding it increasingly difficult to get sponsors. So if anybody can pitch in there, the PayPal is in the description. My Patreon is in the description. Subscribe to the Patreon. If you don't have the money to help support me, don't worry about it and don't ever apologize for it. Get yourself a free Patreon subscription so you can see all the additional content that I publish over there. Good night, Bernard. Oberezhna, as the Ukrainians say. Have you received any of my messages? Nanapam, not that I'm aware. Did you send them on TikTok? Nan, I get a lot of messages. So I'm sorry if I didn't see them or didn't get back to you. Ukraine definitely needs more Ravens and Greyhawks. I don't know when they're coming, when they'll be here, but they could certainly use more. Integral gives a little commercial there for the Patreon. Well worth it for the news we are waking up to, for sure. Sorry, Annette, how do you spell what? Do we know what the new sanctions from Europe will be from tonight? We do not know, Big D, or at least I don't know. I haven't seen any word out of Germany, France, or the UK regarding that. Which is the best value from donation to you? Oh, Sam, so your Patreon support is the biggest thing in the world. It provides ongoing, predictable support. So that is definitely the way to go. Maybe if you're already a Patreon subscriber, maybe you could go from, $5 to $10. That might not make a big difference to you. If a few people did it, it would make a big difference to me. Thank you, Little Red. Thank you, Annette. I'm sorry, Jax. I don't know what that's about. Bobby, I do. I think the parade did the exact opposite of what it was intended. Think about it. 13, all those soldiers you saw, those were soldiers from 13 other countries. There were hardly any Russians there at all. Yeah, PayPal doesn't take anything. Friends and family, it does. You just send it friends and family. I get the whole thing. You're right. But I want to say, in defense of Patreon, they only take 8%, and it is well worth it for the out-of-the-box platform that I have where I can do everything. So I'm certainly not saying anything. The 8% that Patreon takes is well worth it for me, as far as I'm concerned. But you're right. PayPal is what's the word I'm looking for? Fee-free. It's fee-free. So to go back to the question about Bobby's question about the parade making him look weak, they showed off the militaries of 13 other countries, hardly their own country at all. They showed off weapons platforms from other countries. Iranian drones. Are you kidding me? You're basically telegraphing to the world, I'm out of men and I'm out of weapons and I'm absolutely dependent on our foreign allies to keep my war running. I mean, Bobby, what could make you look weaker? Big D, that's a good point. It is ridiculous that there's still other sanctions that could be made. Why haven't they been made already? I agree. Now, I know TikTok said I couldn't send you any more. I used up all my characters. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Nanapam, my email address is in the description too, or in the profile page. It's Piotr Alexievich, which is a terrible name. I'm so sorry, everybody. But you can always send me an email, too. The joke about Russia is what Russian men. Right, exactly. You can always follow me on Facebook, too, and message me on Facebook. Or Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Threads. I do not bicycle. Real Dan, I'm sorry. I do not bicycle. No, I did not try a bike in Amsterdam. I agree, Mel. We do need to arm Ukraine more. No, dude, you guys are all professionals in Amsterdam. I haven't ridden a bike since... Oh, I did ride a bike for a little while with my son, maybe 15 years ago. When we were down the shore, we'd get bikes. I am not on Substack. I have never seen General Ben Hodges in person. It would be the highlight of my time here in Kyiv. If I were to meet that man. He is a heck of a guy, boy, as far as I can tell. Bobby, I'll tell you, the tulips in Holland, right? Because you got to leave Amsterdam to see the tulips. The tulips were magnificent. I mean, just endless, seemingly endless fields of rich, sharp pinks, yellows, reds, oranges, multi-hued, black tulips. Just astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. Thanks, Samso. Appreciate it, man. Mel, as far as you know, I'm not a weapons expert, right? You're always asking about weapons. You probably know more about weapons than I do. As far as I'm concerned, anything that the West wants to send Ukraine, that Ukraine says it can use, is good with me. I'm in favor of it all. Remember, I live here. The more air defense we have, the better I sleep. Could we trade Trump for Zelensky? The Ukrainians wouldn't let him go. I'm not entirely sure what you mean, common sense. I think what you're saying is that Ukraine needs mass of weapons rather than the most expensive or most precise. They just need mass. Hey, Gully. Well, we were just finishing up, pal. It is 12:59, so it is just about time to end this live. So I want to thank again Little Red Sunflower, who's the sponsor of tonight's live. Thanks, Little Red, for all of your support and your Patreon patronage, which is what keeps me going, which was what makes this possible. Big thanks to all the Patreon folks tonight. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, Lars, who has the Discord server, and Jay and Travis, the best moderators on the Tickety Talk. So thanks, everybody. Make it a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Good night.